hands of Touch Radio or its staff.
Good morning. Good morning. As always, when I get the time to come in and meet with you all on Saturday morning, it is indeed a good morning. And as I often say, and if you can hear my melodious and wonderful voice, well, guess what? It is a good day for you. There's always something that you can complain about, you can lament or be worried about. But I would just say that if you take the time the fox in the hen house. Unfortunately, the professor's not here. Neither is Sweet Pete Edwards. Peter's a little bit under the weather, so I want everybody to send up some prayers for him. Hopefully, he'll be back next week. And I don't know about you all, but I enjoyed myself so much last week listening to Pete host the show and maneuver himself around our guest host, Robin Lockett. He did a wonderful job, and I just want to thank Pete for all he does to keep the show lively and strong. And you talk about the sole purpose. Um, it is a wonderful venue on which we can share information all week long. And I encourage everyone to check out the In Touch News website, check out all the programming that's on that can help you in your walk in life in so many different ways, be it mental health, health and fitness, financial information. To everyone this morning. I understand that we're having some technical difficulties with some of the sound coming in and out. Anna's back in studio and she's going to make all that work and stuff out. So stay there with us, everybody. Hang in there. And while we just kind of go through talking about some things that I just want to get off my chest, I often say that this weekly show, an hour with you all, it is my therapy. We all need space and time to share our thoughts, to get things off of us as we battle our way through life. And you all are an important part of that to me. And I caught a glimpse of the Haitian funeral for their president, and it just gutted me. The struggle that I know that those folks are continuing to have and to go on there, and we just want to pray for them to have the ability to correct some of what is held Haiti back from living up to its full potential. But the Haitian people experience is not much different than the African American experience here in this country. You know, we've often had things that we knew of and some things we didn't know that were kind of ourselves. And I've tried to encourage my children and I try to reflect the sense, but I start every question with, what have I done to create the situation? Then what can I do about the situation? And then we get to, what can we get others to do that may impact the situation as well? Our responsibility to ourselves then extends to others and those around us. And so today we're going to talk about a number of things that float back into that. Potential. Now, I am not like Pete, and whereas I think that the black vote is a completely unreliable vote, but I think the black vote can be motivated, and I just want to it can be motivated to um, really move uh, the the needle. It can be able to um, by all parties. I think Republicans discount it and feel that they don't really need to respond to it, or they pander to it in a way that Donald Trump did. That's embarrassing and insulting. Or it's the Democrats who pander to it and almost pat us on the head after they get the vote, but they never deliver. Uh, so here's what I want to do, everybody. I understand that we need to get our connection straightened out back in the studio. We're going to take an early break, run some commercials, and see if we can get that connection.
We're playing your favorite old school. Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
Don't miss the first annual Amateur Grillers Cook-Off coming to the Tampa Bay area on Labor Day weekend, September the 5th. Hosted by the Dr. K.C. Patel High School, located at 10721 Rollison Ranch Road, right here in Tampa, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. There will be a $500 cash prize to the best amateur griller. If you feel that you've got the skills, then you need to bring your grill. It doesn't matter how big or how small. You can drive it up, push it up, pull it up, or even let grandma and grandpa help you set it up. Just bring the entire family out and enjoy some of the finest amateur grill meats. Sample the sauce and find out who has the best sauce. Bring your meat and put it on a plate, and let's see if you have what it takes. For vendors information, text 813-965-4456.
you all. And it's radio, reality radio, where everybody can be a star. Like I indicated, there are a number of issues happening in our community that really bother me. And I think they transcend politics. And if we would be willing to be honest, um, we might be able to start to address those. One of them is it seems like there's just a rash of shootings throughout the community. Everybody saw, I'm sure last week, you had a shooting outside of the uh, as to what is leading to that. And I think the hopelessness, the aggressiveness to claim and fight for territory and rational and resources, things of that nature, is all built into that. A general feeling by people that they're hopeless, I think, leads them to a sense of that. And then, of course, gangs. They thrive on young people who or lack vision and direction for themselves and their lives. So I just think that that's something that we need to be very, very honest with. I think also we know who these people are often. Within the African American community and the reports of it. Let's start with that. The reports of it. If we take a simple proposition that all statistics related to the African American community are underreported. Let's start with that principle. All stats related to the African American community is underreported because they just don't canvass our communities the way that they canvass other communities, or have they been able to extrapolate accurate statistical numbers? A large number of African Americans are in rural communities um, that have nothing to do with, uh, I guess, the ability of the statistical people to give accurate information. If they would canvass those communities similar to the way that they canvass urban and densely populated areas, I think the outcome may be different. I understand also that studios. CDC is reporting that overall, 68.3 um, of the population has gotten at least one shot, and that 57% is at full vaccination. But they're reporting that the African American vaccination rate is well below 50%, and in some areas as low as 24%. Ninety percent of the people have indicated they are vaccinated. And those who are not vaccinated have been pretty upfront and, said, hey, I'm not vaccinated. And now I don't go around trying to convince people to do something else or try to change their mind. I just simply tried to find out who's vaccinated, who isn't. And I have had some conversations with people who were vaccinated. And I thought I was just thrilled with some of the responses that I received in those conversations. I just was thrilled. The of willing was quite interesting to me, and often a lot of them felt you could see that they felt uneasy or embarrassed that that's where they were. And most of their explanations, some of them for the unvaccinated people, weren't very strong. Some were. No one said, I have underlying health issues. So, hey, I'm not going to get the vaccine. No, I didn't hear that one time. Uh, but what I did hear, I thought was quite interesting. I heard things like, it's inconvenient, can't get off work. I'm worried if I take the vaccine and I get sick from the vaccine, what about my child care? Of course, I heard that. I thought, well, what about your child care if you get COVID? But, that's another whole issue. I heard really, thoughtful stuff. It's not convenient. It's not near where I'm located. A lot of that those kinds of things. And what that said to me, maybe we need to revisit some of the ways in which the vaccine is being distributed, the way that it's being promoted. I thought it was always kind of interesting to me that it was not driven through healthcare. That has always baffled me that this was not something that all healthcare institutions, doctors, hospitals, emergency rooms. Just imagine if at every hospital you had a vaccine option for anyone that came in. They came to visit someone, they came to check on someone, they were coming to work, they were coming to fix the AC, whatever they were coming there to do, drop off pizza, who cares what they were coming for? But just imagine the number of additional people you might hit. All sporting events, not some sporting events, but imagine if our healthcare departments were to partner with people everywhere. And as soon as they showed up for whatever sporting event, you also had vaccines set up. We all saw the recent Milwaukee Bucks win the NBA championship. Sorry, Lakers fans. I know you guys had a tough year. Maybe LeBron will convince another superstar to come join him and help him win a championship next year. But this year, the Milwaukee Bucks won it. And you saw that Deer District. It was packed with young folks. Just imagine if they had set up a vaccine site there and said, look, you want to go inside, show us your vaccine card or get vaccinated. Would have been a great way to catch a lot of young people, get them vaccinated, and move the needle forward in that regard. But I think when it comes to our community, we have to be much more creative at how we look at vaccines. Now, here's what I want you to do. I said it before. I'm going to give you the call-in number in case you want to have something to say or you want to join the show. It's 813-444-9588. 813-444-9588. Because if you have an idea about how we can get more people vaccinated, I'd love to hear it. Here's what I don't want to see happen. I do not agree with the governor of Alabama in that we should blame the unvaccinated. But what we should do is challenge ourselves to be more understanding and more convincing. A staunch anti-vax person I was inviting on the show this morning to kind of tell us about their position regarding vaccines. And I was shocked when I reached out to them and they said, well, guess what? I'm being vaccinated. So I thought, okay, Well, that's interesting. So let's do this. We have a caller who's just calling in, and I'm going to ask Anna if you would to bring the caller on, and let's hear what the caller has to say. Go ahead, Anna. You bring the caller in for me.
Caller, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to make a comment about more vaccines.
Go ahead, caller.
Caller, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Go ahead, caller.
I want to make comment about the vaccinations.
Go ahead.
Well, my thought is this. The United States still has a primary agenda of economics, meaning some of the places that you recommended, like the professional sports arenas and things like that, that's not their focus. Their focus is to bring people in to make money. When you put something like the vaccine, which is a healthcare issue, in that type of environment, this is still the land of freedoms, right? We want freedoms here, and freedoms to be vaccinated or not vaccinated is still an option. And when we mix those two things, Americans just aren't tolerant of that.
Right, Carl. I get the tolerance piece, but we're just trying to be so. So I'm not saying that they would force them to get the vaccine. The word I heard from some people was they weren't getting vaccinated because of convenience. And I like the idea of meeting people where they are. They still have the choice of not getting it. I'm not saying making a requirement they do it, but I'm always worried about somebody who says they can't get something done that they want to have done, be it get an education or whatever it may be, healthy food, whatever it is they can't get because it's not convenient. I want to address that. There's always going to be a group of people that say, I'm not doing it, and you're well within your right, and I don't think we should require people to do it. The issue is, how do we deal with the issue of the risk to other people? And I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
I don't think it's that people are not aware. They're very aware. They're just not interested. And it's not just in the community of color. You have some states that are strong Trump supporters, and that conversation is happening in that community as well. They don't believe in COVID, they don't want to wear masks, and they don't want to be vaccinated. We are highlighting the African American community, but to be perfectly honest, this is an American problem, and there are a lot of Americans that are not people of color that have absolutely no interest in getting vaccinated. When you look at those rural areas that are predominantly not African American populated, where the numbers are on the rise, that's happening in other communities as well.
So Carl, let me just ask you this. Do you think we should just accept that, there's going to be a large number of African Americans who choose not to get vaccinated, and they they take the risk factors that go with potentially catching COVID and the impact on our society? Or do we continue to try to be creative with ways that meet people where they are? And I know we won't get to 100%, but do you think that it's time that we say, okay, we just accept, or maybe that, hey, there's going to be a large number of African Americans who are not going to get vaccinated, which means that you're going to have a larger disproportionate number ultimately get sick and die from COVID as a result of not being vaccinated. How do you think we'll respond to that? Because I think you're being very insightful with your comments so far.
Well, the reality that I see is this. First of all, the vaccine does not prevent you from getting COVID. Let's make that clear. It does not prevent you from getting COVID. It lessens the manifestation of the disease in your body. It lessens what happens. So we now have a situation where we have fully vaccinated people walking around with no mask who have COVID, and they are continuing to spread it. that's the reality. 1 in 20 people that are being admitted to hospital are people who are fully vaccinated. So when you have a community of people that doesn't trust the healthcare system, and they're looking at the fact that people are still getting COVID, even though they have been vaccinated, they don't know what COVID is doing to their body, they feel a mistrust for the government and the healthcare system. I don't think we have to accept it, but what we have to do is just continue to encourage people to do it. And unless we're going to go to mass mandatory vaccination, realize that some people, no matter what community they come from, they're just not going to get vaccinated.
Okay. Let's thank the caller. And I'm sorry, I lost my connection. Anna, if you would, thank the caller for calling. And I've got Ed and Lorraine waiting, and I'll comment about, provide some comments once we bring Ed in.
Caller, thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate your comments, and definitely give us a call back if you got some more.
All right. Thank you very much for that. And all right, let me get Ed in here before he pops a vein. He's blowing me. I'm in the waiting room. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring in Ed and Lorraine's going to be joining me. But first of all, to that caller, I mean, that was very insightful. We take it for granted sometimes. People see things differently, but I think we need to hear from other people. She really shared some insightful thoughts. I think long term, if we make vaccines mandatory, we force people to take this vaccine, it will do more damage long term to the trust and relationship between regular citizens and our government. And I'm not in favor of that. Ed, I want you to hold on for me real quick. I got another caller. Anna, bring this caller in. Let's get their name, where they're calling from, and let's see what they have to say.
Caller, thank you for calling into Straight Up the Middle. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Oh, Ashley, calling from Tampa.
Okay, Ashley, good morning. Thank you for calling.
Caller, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead, Ashley, with your comment.
Hello?
Hello, Ashley. Go ahead with your comment. Go ahead and have her make her comment, Anna.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you, Ashley.
Okay, well, I was just calling just really quick because I wanted to hear your thoughts about yesterday. I don't know if you touched on this already, but I think a coach was fired because he wouldn't take the vaccine. And it's just, concerns me, and I think thinking about what would this be like, if other companies start making people become vaccinated. I mean, from a legal standpoint, what rights do people have? And also, people have genuine, medical conditions and reasons that they may not want to take the vaccine. Or, there's a lot still to learn about it. So, again, I just want to touch on if you could touch on the firing of that coach and what this looks like just across the board with sports or corporate America when people are getting fired for not getting vaccinated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Let's do this, Anna, if we could. We're right up against the break. I've got Ed and Lorraine coming in to join us on the show as well. So let's do this. Ed, I apologize. We're going to go to break because we're right up against the break. Let's do a quick break, Anna. On the backside, I'm going to respond to Ashley's comments if real quickly. And then, Ed, I just got a list of things I got to roll down, and hopefully you can help get some clarity on some of that. Anna, this is In Touch News Radio, reality radio where everybody can be a star. We will be right back after this commercial break.
We're playing your favorite old school. Today's R&B. smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio. In Touch Radio, where you can listen to a cruising flow of smooth soul and jazz, today's R&B, a fun touch of hip-hop and gospel.
All my music on one station.
Giving you a buffet of music, news, and entertainment. We're In Touch Radio.
All right, we're back live in Touch Radio, reality radio, where everybody can be a star. That other glowing face you see is none other than former state representative Edwin Lorraine Esquire. Good morning, Brother Lorraine. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Brother Paris, did you say glowing? I'm like, who's glowing this morning? I'm the last person you want to describe as glowing. Oh, the dome. Yes, that's always
I
shining.
am cocoa buttered down this morning, man. I got on my bike. I got out and rode 10 miles, man. I'm just feeling, you see, I got a McKenzie. I'm feeling a little extra ethnic this morning, but I appreciate you joining. Let me hit on a couple things that are going to connect back to you. First of all,
Sure.
Ashley, she nailed it. And I think sometimes people get confused with their employer's rights versus the government's rights. Mm-hmm. And particularly if you're in the state of Florida and a lot of states, you have what's called a right to work. And that is your employer can fire you for any reason or no reason, just not an unlawful reason. And I think that failing to get the vaccine falls in that category. Now, there's going to be a caveat. And here's what my concern is, that we're still under the emergency authorization for the vaccine. And so there are more restrictions on what that imposes. But in my legal process kind of right here, the Minnesota Vikings are a private entity, can set their own rules for how they operate, what they do. And if they say, listen, if you're able to health-wise get the vaccine and you don't, then maybe we don't want you here working at this company. Am I right on that line of analysis?
No, you're absolutely right. Look, one of the things that you learn in employment law is that individuals do have a property right, in their job, but there are limitations to the ownership of that right to work there. So Florida is a right to work state, and your employer literally could fire you for any reason, like you said, unless it's not, unless it's unlawful, right? So they can't come in and say, I don't want any Black people here, and you're out. But they could come in and say, you know what, Clint, you're just not good looking enough for our company. And that could be their reason for letting you go, and you don't have a basis to sue. But just as recently as last month, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission for the U.S. government came down with a ruling that said employers can require vaccination. And that's a long-standing precedent that's been set for the protection of their workplace and for other employees. So I get it, because I'm one of those people that I am vaccinated. I had some trepidation at first, but in talking with Dr. Kevin Sneed, another of our fraternity brothers, and the dean of the School of Pharmacy, he assured us that this was a safe vaccine. So that was the reason why I did it. My family members have mostly done it. But in terms of it impacting your employment, it depends on the employer. Now, you, Clint, are an employer. And one of the things that all companies are facing is whether or not you make this a requirement, because what you don't want to do is alienate good talent from coming to work for you because they have opposition to the vaccine, whether it be a health concern or a religious concern or otherwise. And there are exceptions, by the way, for people who don't choose to get vaccinated for those reasons that I just specified. So don't ever feel like you have to do something in order to work. I truly believe that people can find employment almost anywhere if you're skilled enough. But what we saw in Minnesota yesterday, and I think New England just let go of an assistant coach, is a private employer basically enforcing their rights.
It's kind of, I'm a small law office. Yes, I'm a real lawyer. If you go to the Florida bar and Google my name, I come up as a bar attorney with a bar number. Ed Lorraine is a real attorney as well. So I know people sometimes write me notes and say, "Oh, you're a real lawyer." Yeah, I'm a real lawyer.
Clint's a little bit realer than me. How about that? Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I don't want to change the subject, but I do want to say something, because every time I come on this show, you always talk about, oh, Ed Lorraine's done this and Ed's done that. But what people don't really understand is a big part of the reason why I've been successful to this point in my career is because of the number of people in community that have basically seeded into my life. And Clint, you happen to be one of those people, probably one of the integral people. I'll never say this for Chuck Campbell to hear, but it's so important for us to understand as Black people that we have to leave a legacy behind for others. And when I first met Clint, it was back in 1994 at the University of South Florida. I was a freshman. He was one of the Kappas that was coming around, even though he was, just still visiting the campus, making sure everything was all right.
In official capacity as alumni advisor. I was supposed to be there.
but I wanted to say, you served as an inspiration for me to not just, pledge Kappa, but also to go on to law school. And, I watched Clint do something I ultimately emulated. Clint left his job at State Farm at the time to go full-time as an attorney. I did it later on in life too, but I couldn't afford to quit. So I worked and I went to school at the same time, which was difficult. But I got into school because of Clint, and I wasn't the only one. We've got Darnell Ingram, you've got Emmanuel Michael, Derek Thomas. So when I look at just the pipeline you created and the precedent you set by making a decision almost 20 plus years ago, any success that I have, you have to be able to say, hey man, that guy is where he's at because I helped open the door for him. So thank you.
Well, I don't want to turn this into too much of a love fest, but clearly, Ed,
it's true.
Anybody who met you from the outset could see the level of talent, your immense amount of judgment and thoughtfulness and commitment to making an impact. And that's been consistent all the way through. Okay, so let me throw a couple programming things out there. I got Bobby DeBose blowing me up saying, Clint, I'm trying to get there in a minute. So hopefully, Ed, he'll be joining us shortly on the show before we wrap up. And also, I just want to, so I got a couple messages, and I'm going to respond to these messages on the air from people who are listening to this conversation.
Let's do it.
A message from somebody who said, listen, my office was devastated by COVID, and I provided an incentive. I gave everybody a bonus in my office if they would go out and get vaccinated. In my office personally, we've been hit with COVID by several people. It is extremely disruptive and difficult to operate an office. Now, how about this? One of the people was vaccinated, and they still got, now, thankfully, didn't get very sick, but they still caught COVID, but we were able to move on. So there are a lot of moving parts with this vaccine. But Ed, my question for you, maybe you could touch on this, is the right message from the right leadership getting to the Black community to address its concerns?
So that's a really good question. And I'm going to go back to Dr. Sneed, right? Earlier this year.
First of all, letting people know who Dr. Sneed is. You're throwing it around. Who is Dr. Sneed?
Dr. Kevin Sneed happens to be one of the premier immunologists in the country, right? But he's also the founding dean of the university school. University of South Florida School of Pharmacy. And so he teamed up with Reach Up Inc. here in our community to help get people vaccinated. County Commissioner Gwen Myers has also been working in the community, specifically with our churches and outreach organizations to get people vaccinated. So my wife and I volunteered at our church, and we're having another event in 2 weeks at New Mount Zion Missionary Baptist to get people vaccinated. So I think the message has been out there. Now, do we need celebrities to come out here and do that? I don't think so. I think there's a natural hesitancy that goes all the way back to the Tuskegee experiment. We all know the story there, I believe, which has gotten people a little bit suspicious. And then, as was pointed out by one of the callers earlier, this is a provisional approval, an emergency approval, but is expected within the next month or so, it's going to be a permanent FDA approval. So look, we're not in other parts of the world where I have family members where they're being offered AstraZeneca, which has proven to be not as effective as the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccines. Johnson & Johnson is a one-shot option that's out there for folks if they want to do it. But again, I don't know that some celebrity comes in and all of a sudden Black folks are lining up to take the vaccine.
Okay, all right.
It's a personal decision.
I'm going to take a shot at that.
Sure.
The next time you're in the mall, look at the number of kids wearing Jordans. And imagine the impact if Michael Jordan told the people wearing Jordans, hey, the vaccine's a good idea. Or Kim Kardashian. I accept. I'm not saying that this is how I want it to be, but everybody doesn't listen to, Cornel West. They listen to Kanye West. I'm just, and in my mind, I want to attack this thing in a more creative way, not in a way that validates the system we want to rely upon. We want the Black church to be the leadership and moral beacon in our community. So let's run it through the Black church. Well, I don't know if you looked around your congregation like mine. There's like a 30-year gap between me and the next parishioners because there's a bunch of old people sitting in there. And this thing is hitting our young folks. So that's kind of my thought process along those lines.
So you obviously missed the juvenile video, right? The Vax That Thing Up that was done.
No, I didn't. I thought that was good. But juvenile, that song is like 25 years old though.
Hey, you shake your body down to the ground. It's 40 years old, and when it comes on, we all hit the dance floor. All I'm saying is people are trying to be as creative as they can be, but I like to put it back in the mindset. Go back to your undergraduate days at the University of South Florida. Say you're 21 years old and somebody tells you there's a virus out there that you could get. It's going to make you real sick. You could possibly die from it. Would you get in line for that vaccine?
Well, I'm going to run something because I was in college during a virus outbreak. It was AIDS.
Polio?
AIDS.
Sorry. It's too easy. I had to take a shot.
Listen, man, I want to give a shout out to also, man. I got one of my fellow lawyers, Rolando Santiago. We used to work together back at the city attorney's office listening in. Thanks for listening in, Rolando. I appreciate it. Keep the messages coming. But I was on campus when AIDS hit.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought in I was a resident assistant, and they brought us in and said, listen, we have to be a beacon of information, and we have to attack this where it is. So one of the things they did is say, all the RAs, we're required to keep a basket of condoms open and available in the dormitory. So if anybody anywhere wanted access to it, no questions, none of that, go up to the health department, ask the lady to reach in the back and give you some, or go downtown to the health. They put them on the dorm floors at that time to try to attack that virus. And it really had, people were it got some attention, particularly once, the guy from NWA passed away and Magic Johnson came out. That kind of shocked everybody into reality of it. But I was just thinking about, if we had that level of leadership at the forefront, because here, let me tell you, my survey I did. Did you hear my survey comments? So I did my own survey. I don't trust either. So my survey, I've been going around asking people, are you vaccinated? And if I find somebody who's not, without trying to fix or solve them, I just ask them to tell me why. And I was surprised to hear the number of times I heard it hasn't been convenient. I can't get off work. And I know some of the excuses are just excuses. I don't have daycare. I'm afraid to get sick. And I listened to some of that stuff. The distrust piece was definitely there. I heard some of that. But I was shocked today in somebody I asked about getting, and they said, this Delta virus, it's got my attention. I think I might, have to get it in order to really be more comfortable. And I think that's what I'm trying to concern myself with, is making it more convenient. I mentioned the sports event, things of that nature. Just you show up, kind of like credit cards when you were in college. You got them because they were convenient. You walk down the hall and there was a guy to sign you up. You go to cafeteria, there's a guy, he's there to sign you up. What about making these vaccines more convenient to where people are?
So let me say this. The Biden administration has come out and said they want to do door-to-door vaccination. That is not a, hey, are you vaccinated? No, okay, give me your arm kind of thing. It's just to make it more convenient. Even the city of Tampa now is offering a similar solution in terms of people that want to get tested or vaccinated, which I think is great. Now, I saw a comment that said, hey, you're acting as if the vaccine is a cure-all. I'm not. The truth of the matter is the vaccine is like all the other vaccines that have come about that will lessen the likelihood of you actually getting COVID. But here's the kicker. We're seeing more people, like, since we're talking in the legal profession, Ashley Moody just announced this week that despite being vaccinated, just got COVID.
Yes, she did.
We have the Lightning singer, Sonia Brinston, who just announced that she's got COVID and is fighting for her life in the ICU. But she has a pre-existing condition that has actually worsened things for her, not because of the vaccine, but because of her already, let me just say, tough situation, medical situation. But it's public if you look it up. And she's encouraging people from her hospital bed to get vaccinated. What I know is people who've gotten it, who are vaccinated, actually are recovering within 24 to 48 hours. Wow. They're not getting sick for 2 weeks. They're not being intubated. They're not being brought into the ICU. So for now, this is a vaccine that is effective because it's helping people either A, not get it, or two, lessen the symptoms once they do get it.
So listen, Bobby just popped in.
Oh gosh, I gotta
enough
go.
Of us,
I gotta
enough
go.
Of us acts going back and forth. Listen, everybody, we've got none other than the magnanimous State Representative Bobby DuBose on the line with us. Good morning, Bobby. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. I wouldn't go that far. And Ed, you gonna leave me now, man? We used to be roommates. What's up?
I know that's why I'm leaving.
Listen, so we got Ed and Rain here and Bobby DuBose. They both served in the state House of Representatives together. And Bobby is a candidate to replace the icon Alcee Hastings for Congress. First of all, how does it feel to even have somebody say that? You're a leading candidate to replace Alcee Hastings. How does that feel, Bobby?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I was just like, man, I don't think myself or anyone could replace Congressman Hastings. My hope and desire is to maybe one day grow into his shoes and try and fill them. But you're right, man. That's just a whole body of work that, speaks for itself. He, was my modern day hero.
You're right. I recall, I'm old enough to I went to school for a minute with Jody, and we was cap at UF back in the day. We spent a minute together, and I remember his dad being iconic and just, the awe. I'll tell you, I was up in Washington, D.C. once trying to get something done, and I said, let me just go by his office and see what happens. And man, he started barking out orders, and before I know, we all had the passes we needed, and off we went to, have a wonderful time up there. So talk a little bit about campaign. I know you've been in Tampa. You did some reach out here. Why is it important to a community that's not, where you are, to understand and support a candidate like you in a campaign like this?
I think, the time we're in really just speaks to that very question. Because what's happening nationally is happening locally. The laws that are being passed, not only on the state level, but the things we're trying to get done on the federal level have a direct impact on the Black community. And when I say the Black community, and I'm not talking about just your neighborhood, I'm talking about no matter where Black folks live, even if we live in, predominantly white neighborhoods, there's just something about living in America, and that's being two Americas. So it's really important that we look as a collective as we move forward. The current legislation that we had to deal with in Tallahassee was just very reflective of Jim Crow. So we titled it Jim Crow 2.0. And so that's why I tell folks, when we look at what's going on, we got to look at on a global aspect of how it impacts Black folks. Because if it hasn't touched your community today, trust me, it's on its way.
Bobby, I am also lucky enough every now and again to have Ed. He'll sit in and co-host on our show. So I'm going to be nice, and I'm going to actually let him ask you a question. But before he does that, tell people how they can support your campaign real quick, and then I'm going to have Ed ask you a question.
Right now, it's a special election. I'll just be, straightforward with you. There's two aspects. It's a ground game and it's a money game. And if folks who are not here could contribute and go to DuBose, for Congress.com, or, I remember when my good friend Ed was running, I grabbed my family and we jumped in the car and we drove over there and we canvassed. So we're open to both. Come and join us and knock on some doors on behalf of the effort or make a financial contribution.
Outstanding. So, and again, that's DuBose, and that's DUBOSE for Congress.com, correct? DuBose for Congress.com. All right, Ed, go ahead, Ed. I'm gonna let you go ahead and show your chops as a co-host. You get to ask a question.
Oh, Listen, my question is simple.
I thought Ed left.
No, I decided to stick around. He told me I was going to get an opportunity to haze you, so I said, let me stick around and ask this question. So my question is simple.
Wait, I'm the uncle. How you hazing me, man? I mean, that's reverse hazing or something.
So deference, gentlemen, please.
This is my Uncle Bobby, But my question is simple. Who's the best roommate you ever? No, I'm just joking. Listen, there are, in the words of my friends from Outcast, there's 50, 11 people, 100 people running for this seat. Why do you believe you're the best person to win Congressional District 20 and represent Broward and Palm Beach?
There are several people.
What?
You're correct in the sense that there are a lot of people in the race, and that's fine. And I think in the climate we're dealing with in DC, experience really matters. And let me expand on that. So my background is I served locally as commissioner in the city of Fort Lauderdale, and was pretty effective in not only policy but resources for my district, and served leadership there as well. And then Tallahassee on the state level have that same experience. In fact, this past session, I passed a piece of legacy legislation that they've been trying to pass in DC as well. And that's the restraint seclusion bill that directly affects students with disabilities. And so I think, in the time we're in, it's important to have someone who has the experience on the local, state level, and who has served in leadership on both and has effectively not only draw down resources, but has been able to shape policy. So I tell people, as much as we want to say, hey, we want to, get dollars and so forth, you need both. You gotta have the resources, but you gotta have the policy, and you gotta prioritize it, and you gotta make sure that it's effective. So I have that experience, and I can definitely take that to DC and hit the ground running.
Outstanding, man. That's what I like to hear. Now, listen. So me and Ed were also talking about this, and I want your thoughts about this vaccine hesitancy within the African American community. We'll let other people worry about themselves, but in our community, what do you think needs to be done from a community standpoint or leadership standpoint to move that needle forward to get more people vaccinated?
Oh, man. I think the unfortunate thing that I've seen is that for whatever reason, folks will take a stance on this issue they feel like they're invincible, they don't need it. And because we started, the numbers went down, and, we started having opportunities to go outside and not wear a mask, and folks got comfortable. But what I've seen here lately, and actually I have a personal experience with a friend, she's, in our age group, and she didn't get the vaccine. Now, I didn't know this because she was bringing her parents to get vaccinated when we were doing the vaccinations at the churches, and she didn't. So she went off, she got COVID, she came home, she gave it to her parents. The parents, they went in the hospital, they're fine, they're older, obviously, I said seniors, and they had to induce a coma. I mean, she wasn't responsive. I mean, she went completely the other way. And, prior to that, just talking to family members, people had just been talking to her, begging her to get this done, and she didn't. So, we have to continue to make it available, we have to continue to talk to folks. But some of these folks who are in these real rigid positions, it appears that the actual experience and sharing these stories of what's happening to people is probably going to be the one thing to motivate them. I'm constantly out because of the campaign. I'm knocking on doors, and I'm having this conversation with folks over and over again, because as I engage them, my question is, are you vaccinated? If they're yes, we have a little bit more intimate conversation. But if no, I'm standing further back, and then I'm trying to get folks, listen, you got to get it. So it's very challenging. The campaigns and narratives, I think, need to be a little bit more aggressive than, please go out and get it. I think people need to understand who is dying, who is being affected, put a real face on it, show folks that, hey, this person was here, this person is not here. And more specifically, folks in the Black community, and make folks understand how this is going to affect their grandmother or their grandfather or, their mom, their dad, because I'm finding a lot of younger folks don't want to do it. And we feel invincible until we see, a real live person that we love and care about that we
So,
can
Bobby,
impact.
you didn't like the Backs That Thing Up video, is what you're saying? I mean, come on. Like, how much more outreach do we need to do after that?
Well, and I would say, just like our just immediate response, it's fun, it's lighthearted. I don't think it pulls the heartstrings. I don't think it hits you right in your gut, because no matter how tough we are, when it comes to mama, daddy, grandma, and granddaddy, that's a whole different space. And maybe, part of it may be empowering them or giving them the platform instead of Backs That Thing Up. Maybe we need mom and them to be on the video talking to these folks and getting them to do it.
Well, listen, Bob, I really appreciate you this morning by taking time out your day to join us. One more time, tell people how they can support your campaign before we close out the show.
TheVotesForCongress.com, and if you know somebody in Congressional District 20, South Florida, that's Miramar, Central, Broward, Fort Lauderdale, that's also Palm Beach, Riviera Beach, Belle Glade, reach out to them and tell them and encourage them. It's a special election November 2nd to get out and vote. We greatly appreciate all of that.
Thank you very much, Bobby. I appreciate you joining us. Ed, I got a minute to close out. Your closing comments. Go ahead, Ed.
My closing comments, I'm glad that we were able to get the Democratic leader of the Florida House, Bobby DuBose, here with us today. For those who are wondering, I don't throw my political support behind candidates lightly. I'm going to tell you like this, Bobby DuBose, if nothing else.
Get it out.
It's coming. He's a family man. He has a beautiful wife and children that he's raising. He knows his community. And as we say, he's from the dirt. He's from the 33311, and he's always represented, never left. So Bobby DuBose for Congress, that should be your guy.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks, Bobby, for joining us. This has been In Touch News Radio, reality radio, where everybody can be a star. Join us again next week, and stay tuned for The Sole Purpose, which comes on right after this show ends. All right, y'all have a good week. See you next time.
Yep.